Hello everyone, my name is Russell Wright from ThemeZoom.com and NetworkEmpire.com. I'm the co-inventor of the ThemeZoom vertical market research tool and the last keyword tool, both natural language processing tools that utilize an advanced form of what I call hyper keyword research to scrape the web and integrate ideas, concepts, and themes into your vertical market. It's a perfect concept to integrate with content curation, which is what this video is about, because there's a lot of confusion around the area of content curation, and I specifically want to address the difference between corporate content curation and small business curation, as well as personal content curation. First of all, I'd like to preface this video by letting you know that I consider the company Curata to be a thought leader in the concept of corporate curation, an advanced corporation within the monetization model. And of course, they have many other skills. I do have a relationship with them. So those of you inside this course, which is the Introduction to Premium Content Curation, please do contact me if you're interested in looking into the more advanced corporate curation models, and we'll get into the ways that you can address that with clients. There are many people taking this course from all different levels of business. So those of you who are small business owner, 10 million or less, versus large business owners, we need to go ahead and separate you into different kinds of curation models, and we'll be talking more about that. So do contact me if you're interested in moving towards the more higher end curation model, because we have a relationship with that company. Now, we're going to look at a couple of different things here. The first thing I want to talk about is all the different definitions on the web about curation. Curata's definition, for example, is I'm drowning in information, please help me. And that really is one of the many definitions that are out there. And in their material, as well as about a dozen other content curation companies that I've researched out there, they all have similar ideas about curation, but we actually come from a completely unique perspective about curation. Because the idea that you're drowning in information, although partially correct, we've enhanced that a little bit more, because as you know, at ThemeZoom, we focus on neuromarketing and neurocognitive processes. We're very interested in the way that the brain works in response to content. And as a result, we actually point out that content curators in the advanced sense are actually meaning makers. And we came up with this concept when our friend David Allen, who is somebody I've researched and studied with for many years, actually said there's no such thing as information overload. There is only such thing as potential meaning overload. You can read more about David Allen on our wiki, which is available in the course, and we'll talk to you more about the fascinating people, individuals, and thought leaders that we have that worked with us to develop our ideas. Now, let's go a little bit back. If there really is not only information overload that we're looking at, there's only potential meaning overload, then what does that turn creators into? It turns curators into information meaning context providers of a very high order. Now let's take an example of what we really mean by, say, a really high level curator. Let's take, for example, my favorite curator of all time would be Chris Anderson of TED. And he had a huge career in journalism and began publishing stories. And he provided, TED came into existence when he realized that he wanted to move into a model that people could share and spread memes, ideas, and concepts that were world-changing, kind of the make a dent in the universe, kind of Steve Jobs perspective, and bring thought leaders together from all over the world to help solve the world's problems. And what I want to point out is that TED is, calling Chris Anderson the curator. And when you think about it, this is some of the most intriguing and compelling information in the world, available for all the world to see. But it's a massive project at curation, and it's also corporately funded. And this is, again, one of the things that we want to differentiate between small business curation and advanced curation methods. And we hope to help you in this course distinguish between advanced corporate curation and what we call premium curation, as well as personal curation of information. So let's get back to the big picture. Now again, since Curata provided us with a lot of the corporate perspective as well as the large business perspective of what curation might be and how it varies from company to company, we're going to go ahead and use the steps provided by Curata, and we're also going to provide ThemeZoom and Network Empire's additional insight into these perspectives. The big curation picture, step one, is suggested to identify your topic. This actually sounds like, okay, yeah, that's step one. This is actually the hardest part, and it's the place and the point where, as a company, both Network Empire, both my companies, Network Empire and ThemeZoom, as far as how we do vertical online market research, differentiate ourselves as a curator company and as a vertical market research tool to organize your themes and your topics. Now, what we really think about when we're looking at how to do this is we like to begin with the end in mind. Okay, this is also something that they talk about at Curata, which is picking the right topic is perhaps the most critical, strategic, and creative step in the process. Your choices drive every other decision you make, but don't panic. Finding your perfect topic is easy. It's answering one question. At the end of the day, what do you want to be known for? And that is a fantastic way to kind of answer what you want to curate. At ThemeZoom, we actually call this the congruency context. In other words, what is congruent with what you're passionate about? And in what way are you going to generate an income with that passion? And if you haven't figured that out yet, you have some bigger questions to answer before you generate topics. There are people that I know who are absorbed in topics that they're not super passionate about, but that's what they do for a living, and they are experts in that. And we're going to talk more about what that really means. So, we like to emphasize that it's a really good idea when picking your topic that you understand the market, and we're going to get a little bit more into how to pick the most appropriate curatable topics for your company. But we also use the ThemeZoom Kraken technology to determine what is going on inside the market, because here's the thing, guys. It doesn't hurt to know the value of a keyword or a cluster or a topical idea. When Chris Anderson from TED goes out there and pulls in a bunch of people, he doesn't necessarily do keyword research to bring and curate all these amazing minds, individuals, and their content so that everybody in the world can walk away with at least one insight from these authors. What he does is he just decides which topics the world is in demand. He doesn't research their economic value and so on and so forth. He's covering whole niches. But as a business owner with only a certain amount of time, one of the good things that you do want to do using the Kraken or the last keyword tool is to get a general idea of how much money, this money is an indicator of interest, there is around a topic or a cluster of topics within the marketplace. It doesn't mean that you have to stick rigidly to a specific keyword or keyword cluster as we talk about it in ThemeZoom. It does mean, however, that you're going to kind of know where the pocket of interest and where the pains are. And because those pains are there, you'll learn how to create an ISDNA, that is an industry solution that's unique to your company. And that's very, very helpful. And we actually call that a theme cluster. Everybody has a unique theme cluster for their business. That is a unique combination of ideas and concepts as well as keywords with unique insights that make up your business. And once you know those, it becomes much easier to choose those few simple topics that you should become a curator, a master of within your industry, to become an industry rock star, as some people like to talk about it as. Okay, so we're going to talk about how to pick more profitable topics as well. There's a way besides just using technology that you need to consider when creating content. And we talk a lot about this in the course. For those of you who are in the course now, you do have access to the Network Empire members area and the article, the painkiller article method, and how to write killer articles and how to provide industry insight. But for the moment, we're going to talk about a few pieces of the interesting but incomplete model of premium content curation, because it's where a lot of people really get confused. We're in a time where you have to actually consider different kind of writing, a combination between journalism, SEO writing, and copywriting, or sales copywriting even, which is a process of unbearing the lead in journalism, providing value and extracting value and enhancing perceived value in sales copywriting, and then primarily thinking about the SEO factors of headlines, meta tags, and so on and so forth. Some people only cover one of those three types of content. The main thing to understand is that there's intrigue, there's information, and there's insight. If you provide too much insight into something, then you really kind of are working in a monetization model. When I say too much, if something is insightful and informative and intriguing and complete, like a book or an author has done in writing an amazing book, authors are known for not making that much money, even if they make the New York Best Time seller. They've given a huge amount of value away, and it's in print. In order to make sustainable income over time, you have to divvy out micro chunks of copy, or what we call micro content. over time, and you have to understand how to use a technology that will allow you to interact with your customers in a way that is interesting, informative, and incomplete. And you can give away some insight, similar to how TED gives the major insight away from a book or novel. But we don't recommend that you lead with your best insight first if you're trying to make money on the web. So with premium content curation, we focus on primarily curating your own material on the first branded rings before you enter into the process of randomly curating other topics and authors. Doesn't mean that you don't do that. There's just a specific location that you need to do that and places where you don't want to do that within your technology ring. And we discuss this in the course. The best way to choose content curation, the best way to curate knowledge is a combination of industry knowledge, your questioning skills, and business acumen. This is what makes a great curator, is that insight zone. We just discussed that you don't want to give your best insights away for free on the web. What a lot of bloggers do is they spend so much time writing and providing great material that they don't realize that it's not how much content you write, and it's not how much amazing insight and brilliance you provide. It's where. It's the right kind of insight at the right place that's interesting but incomplete, that drives a customer value proposition. And anybody who is really giving all of their information and knowledge away, and especially all of their insight, should be working in a monetization model just like Chris Anderson is. TED actually is provided for by BMW and other corporate interests. The entire thing is a monetization model. And that's what we really want to emphasize is know the difference, know your model. Before you can know your curation style, you need to understand what model you're in. Are you an expert consultant? Or are you down here at the bottom, and you can't see the arrows underneath here. At the very bottom, there's arrows that say monetization model. Anything that's insightful, informative, intriguing, and complete is literally the monetization model. That means somebody else is funding you to pay for the traffic and the time you spend as a curator. And if your organization makes money with other departments and with other functions, it's a good idea to be able to hire a curator on staff to begin to hold together the archive of information that might be interesting in your industry. So let's go ahead and move on now that you're beginning to get the idea of how content curation works. Step 2 is find your sources. Follow and find your sources. This is pretty easy once you understand what's really going on. You need to go ahead and find the thought leaders. I call this curating the curators. Who are the headliners playing? It's almost like band, Twitter, so on and so forth. I just look at the top curators in the industry and get all the information I need. Because my job in premium content curation is not just to follow all the curators, but it's also to use what those curators have provided me, distill that alchemically, and provide even better insight. And just a piece of insight with more not free insight in paid content area or in consultative services. And this is what I think a lot of curators fail to do, is understand at what point it is that they need to get paid for mixing and remixing content. They need to be able to provide unique value. Remember we talked about meaning making. They need to help the audience provide better meaning and insight. And the more meaning and insight they provide, the more they'll get paid, as long as they draw the free line in an effective way within their organization. For a moment, let's talk about the actual technical process of beginning to curate at the basic curation level. Step 1, as recommended by Curata, is to collect your feeds. We also focus on feeds. In our premium content curation methods, we focus only on our own feeds within the inner hubs or inner rings of your own online network. Google Reader is a very useful way to organize your own feeds. Now, there are other ways to do it at advanced corporate levels using different technologies and advanced platforms, including platforms that companies like Curata offer. It is possible to use other readers or other built-in site feed curation and RSS organizers. Now, step 2, a good way to keep up with information are Google Alerts. Our company, ThemeZoom and Network Empire, use Google Alerts all the time to stay focused and updated. It doesn't mean that you need to syndicate or curate every single piece of content that comes out there. But Google Alerts is a way that is underutilized by many, many people on how to keep up with what's going on. They'll push it right to your inbox, or you can pull it out as a feed. And then you can pick and choose which content you would like to curate on your own WR1 and WR2 rings, which we talk about in this course. Number 3 is organize, review, filter, and categorize. Now, this is the the hardest part for most people is to organize. And as a knowledge worker, you have to stay very, very organized in order to be able to organize this for others. So if you are not curating yet and you're wondering how you can become a better curator, the first thing for you to do is to get really organized with your own content. Most people aren't even organizing their own stuff well, let alone other people. And I tell you, once you become good at organizing your own stuff, you'll be able to really provide a lot more value in this digital knowledge working economy. People are overwhelmed with information, as we talked about, and we're drowning. There's information overload, and more importantly, there's a meaning overload. Where you have information overload or alleged information overload, you have potential meaning overload, and also one's purpose and life starts to get messy because you don't know what you're doing because there's just too many facts. Now, what's interesting is that our company has added on to the curation methodology because we've got almost 10 years in the process of understanding digital hierarchy. And not only that, in the SEO industry, that digital hierarchy has a technical method, which I learned early on from Mr. Bruce Clay at Bruce Clay Inc. And my business partner, Sue Bell, was the first person in history to attempt to automate this and incorporate keyword research and vertical online market analysis with this. It's called website silo architecture. Website silo architecture is a way to build a website so that it ranks higher for far fewer inbound links than your competition using stackable thematic phyllotaxes or digital hierarchy. And it's a profoundly powerful way to keep your links and your hyperlinks and your page rank on your site. That's the SEO stuff for those of you who aren't geeks. It's a way to keep that all organized in one single action. And that fits really, really well with corporate curation as well as personal curation, because once you know what your website silo architecture is, then you really understand your primary topics that's worth curating. Because once you build your own DNA, what we call your keyword DNA in Kraken and the last keyword tool, it's our technology, you don't have so much of a hard time figuring out which topics you should be curating because you stay on point with your business. Because the truth is, I agree with Curata, you don't want to go too crazy with too many categories. This is the opposite of website silo architecture. This is the idea that everything is miscellaneous. But everything being miscellaneous definitely does not work for the content curator, because the whole purpose of your existence is to organize content in a coherent way, not only to lower the threshold of information overload, but to increase the meaning making in people's lives and to decrease the potential meaning overload. That's not only a standard technical curator, that's actually an excellent researcher and a powerful consultant, and anybody who is a visionary is ultimately going to become a curator. Take Chris Anderson as an example. And we want you to become high-level curators so that you can see what's coming, because people are actually asking for meaning making, not just information organizers. Okay, so don't go too crazy. Use subcategories. It's another suggestion from Curata, which we actually validate in ThemeZoom in our experience. One of the things they say is use subcategories. That's just another way of saying use subpages and subcategories to organize your blogs in a website silo architecture format. That's a technical fancy word for saying, hey, put the red balls in the red bucket, the blue balls in the blue bucket, and the green balls in the green bucket. Okay, this is the whole idea of keeping things organized in your site so that both the search engines and the human beings understand how the topics are thematically related, and they'll love you for it. You're giving them meaning as well as helping them with potential meaning overload. Also, in tips for successful curation, don't forget your tags. Well, that would be an understatement for us in premium content curation, because obviously if you've used Kraken, our technologies, and the last keyword tool to create your keyword DNA for your websites, you're automatically going to be putting your tags in every time like a mantra. Literally, they're going to be a keyword DNA everywhere. And because you know your keyword DNA, you're going to know your curation topics, quite obviously, almost always. Here's a bonus tip from Curata. The most useful content collections don't just make it dead simple for readers to find specific information, they also make it easy for them to discover fresh resources. Achieving this kind of intuitive interface requires more than one traditional category and more than one traditional way. And we could not agree more with this concept. Number 4 is create or add value. Okay, now this is the hardest and most controversial aspect of content curation, which I would say that we're very contrarian on, because as you've heard, we don't believe it's just about information overload, we believe it's about potential meaning overload. as per our friend David Allen, and therefore the definition of value is called into question. And I could not agree more with the Curata team and other curation experts out there that adding value is the name of the game, because what it's not is, and we're going to get a little bit into what curation is not, because it's very, very helpful. It's not regurgitation, and it's not just simply imitating or even providing a mixed tape of something. You're providing context at the right mood, the right time, and it's relevant to what's happening now. But we're also going to look at some things, in regards to what that means. And we cover most of that. We cover most of that in the course, in the successive the upcoming modules. And I just want to make sure that you emphasize those two graphs that we showed you before on interesting but incomplete and industry acumen and knowledge. That's what you really got to understand when it comes to creating content. When adding value is not so simple when it comes to creating a clarity of meaning in people's lives and industry. It requires acumen. You can use commentaries. You can create new conversations to add value. You can synthesize new information. Okay, so these are some of the ways that you can add value. Like what I'm doing right now is a way of adding value. I'm redefining something, I'm increasing, adding a new perspective, and maybe even deepening the meaning on what's already there. And last but not least is share and publish, and there's a variety of ways of doing that, which we cover in the course in the upcoming modules, and so we're glad that you're here. If you're not actually already taking the Introduction to Premium Content Curation course, we do invite you. It's at a reasonable price for everybody involved, because we realize that people from all walks of life are involved in content curation, are confused by it, fascinated by it. So these are the things that we're going to be showing you in the course, and we're going to be showing you our SEO, social media automation, and content curation integration. As far as we know, we're the only ones that are focusing on this three together and integrating them in an automatic system called the One Feed to Rule Them All system. So more on that a little bit later. Let's go ahead and go back a little bit here and talk about let's talk about what curation is not, because I thought that was a really fascinating insight. Content curation in its basic form is not aggregation, it's not piracy, it's not automation. And I include automation in as a supplement, but it's not really the essence of pure curation. It's not regurgitation, it's not volume driven, and it's not brand driven. At best, activities that fit in the above description are noise. At worst, they're spam. Either way, they add to the headache of information overload. And this is a fantastic point. So how do you add value as a subject matter expert? Because anything that's not automated that requires any thought at all is where you lose time as a business owner. Thinking is where you should get paid. And this is why it's so dangerous, to give all of your information away. And if you're going to be a curator, to not know the difference between the monetization model and the subject matter expert model of online content. And this is really the dilemma that the web is facing right now. And in the course, we show you the 5 different kinds of content and information that the online user will pay for, regardless of how ubiquitous and crazy the web gets over the next few years. Some things will never change. This is why we focus on the neuroscience of what content and what value actually is. When you look at piracy and regurgitation and volume driven, and it's not automation, it's not aggregation. By aggregation, we mean it's not these services that are aggregating different content and are just cutting up information based on keyword and spitting them out and mixing and remashing tweets and plus ones and all these other things until when you get to the site, you're not even sure what it's about. It's just more chatter and more noise. Okay, those are the old aggregation systems. We're also not talking about volume-driven sites that are primarily just RSS curation. Okay, we're talking specifically about, and some of these sites can have a lot of valuable information on them. Here's a website by a client of ours that has one of the largest auto-curated, or it's really a feed aggregation system in the world. It's a news feed aggregation system about Apple computers and Apple investing. He's not selling any of his own personal products or consulting services. It's all just feeds that are aggregating this massive site across massive technologies, and the entire process is a monetization model, meaning the advertisers and the companies that pay him to be on the site is how the site is funded. So again, this is a monetization model, and it's very, very technical. This is not premium content curation, and it's certainly not professional curation. So these are the kind of distinctions I'd like you to have in looking at what curation is not. Curata has done a fantastic job of explaining what content curation is. So again, I'd like to return to the big picture and look at the whole perspective of content curation. We're in a time where information overload is becoming incredibly all-pervasive in every discipline, every niche, every market in the world. Okay, and one of the things that I'd like to say is that in true essence, there is no such thing as information overload. Okay, what there is there's potential meaning overload. And this is the definition that we give it. The true curator is trying to help people find the meaning of life. And most people don't know because the computers are down. And so what you're really looking for, this is why TED has been so outrageously popular, is that it's not just man's search for more information or his next addiction, his next bright shiny object that is really driving mankind at some profound levels, both digitally and otherwise. It's the meaning that people are looking for. And if you can reduce the meaning overload, the potential meaning overload, the various kind of neurological processes that most human beings are suffering from, attention distraction, so much information coming in. Our brains have never been subjected to more input in the history of the world than we are right now. And it's your job as a curator to find that meaning for other people and provide a better spin that's not just merely a sensational spin, but true and valued insight into whatever topic, theme, or interest that you are focused on. So that means that you have to be organized and that you have to be powerfully clear about what services that you're providing, and that you have to be aware that in order to get things done, you have to refuse acceptance of cognitive value of things that are not focused on your niche. You have to shave down the potential meaning overload by reducing your topics and themes to just 4 or 5 basic keywords. You have to understand why those keywords are being chosen. In other words, why you've actually selected those topics and themes. And if you're working for a company, it's very helpful to have tools like ours that allow you to determine what the most popular and problem-driven topics and themes there are. Because everybody has topics and themes in their industry, niche, or passion that are more problematic and have more problems and buzz around them than other ones. And it's good to talk about those and hone your skills in those areas, because I think it's a mistake to consider curation as not a form of service to humanity and a form of providing solutions, albeit it's an information type solution. I think it's just the same as a new kind of information marketing, where we're providing solutions to problems and topics and themes and insights that people who are overwhelmed might have never come to. Therefore, you have to be a profound thinker, profoundly neat and clear about your own meaning in your own life. My name is Russell Wright from Network Empire. This is the Introduction to Premium Content Curation. In the subsequent course modules, you're going to learn how to integrate advanced SEO website silo architecture, automated social RSS feeds. Just because we talk about curation as not being automated doesn't mean that you don't use the power of automation to distribute micro content throughout the web everywhere. Plus content curation, the trifecta: social media, automated social media, website silo architecture, advanced SEO, and content curation into one feed to rule them all. My name is Russell Wright. I look forward to seeing everybody in the next module.